Okay. I think we're ready to go. And my voice still not great. What did? Alright, so this isn't exactly going to be a react, but I have a lot of things that I wanted to say kind of around this topic, and I just figured this would be a good jumping off point. We're going to watch a part of this K-Drill clip, and then I'm probably just going to pop off about some things that I kind of wanted to say.
Quite a short one. LCS Spring 2026 records the lowest viewership for North American LoL ever. Peak viewership, average viewership.
Which is pretty sad, because to be honest, I think LCS is actually really fun right now, and it's been pretty much increasingly going up in quality over the past few years.
Down from LTA Spring 2025, whereas airtime is also up, so not quite the rebound Riot is hoping for. What worries me is that this year's broadcast is actually really good.
Yeah, exactly.
LCS has tried hard to promote personalities in the league. I'm not sure if there's any real solution besides league becomes more popular in NA or a team makes miracle runs. Yeah, I mean,
I always wonder about that, if like a team really did make a miracle run for North America, if that would actually bring anyone back. I mean, maybe to esports viewership. Probably wouldn't help the player base very much, but you know, maybe they'd do something for esports viewership. I'm not 100% sure of it though.
There's like a lot of things you can point to. You can be like, we can change the name, we can change the format, we just need more player personalities, we just need teams to put in more effort. I think people just are too old or don't care anymore, bro. I just think people have moved on, and there's nothing really that like attaches fandom to anything in the league, IMO.
Yeah, definitely not to esports directly. Big thing with esports that, especially League of Legends esports, has this big problem with legibility that CSGO and CS2 doesn't have. Something that's very good about CSGO and CS2 is it's very easy, even if you're not into the game, if you're someone who's interested in video games and you have even a modicum of interest in professional gaming, you could turn on a CSGO stream and learn the rules. You know, one team is trying to shoot the other team, and one team is trying to plant the bomb, and the other team is trying to stop them from planting the bomb. And it's very simple to understand why people might be doing things. I do not think the same is true for League of Legends. The base level of the game is not easy to understand. I mean, there are people fighting each other on screen sometimes, but I mean, the fact is, the nature of the game and the nature of pro play is that there's not actually enough to incentive action and fighting, which is what not only players want to do, but is the thing that people who don't have a good understanding of the game would actually be able to follow along with. So you get tons of games where you're sitting there for 15 minutes with like 5 total kills in the game, and they just don't have the wherewithal yet, because most people don't, to be honest, except really good players, people who watch a ton of pro play, to understand what's interesting about a bunch of people walking around the map and CSing, and maybe burning a flash here and there.
You know what I mean? There's no, like, I get that there's no player or player personalities and the team personalities. There's nothing that really attaches like the fandom to the league. But I think it's also kind of late. I don't think there's anything unless it's like insanely big that'll bring people back. I don't even think if you remove franchising and open the circuit in NA specifically, they'll fix anything. Jinxie's trying.
I don't really think anything you do with pro play itself is going to bring people into the audience. I think it has to be done with the game and with the community, and then pro play will benefit from it as a result. I don't think you can grow pro play without fixing the perception of League of Legends in particularly Western culture.
Jinxie's making some good league content. How much of that's going to impact the LCS viewership? I think it's like 1% maybe.
Yeah, if that.
Maybe if he starts co-streaming it and covering it, it'll be a bit more, but even then after that, I don't think it's gonna like not to be a negative Nancy, but I think that if he was to co-stream like a finals and then just stop, then I think it's not going to do much.
Yeah, I think that's true. Maybe if he co-streamed with regularly high viewership for like a year and all of his fans were constantly watching him follow the league and be super into it, maybe that would translate even after he left to some amount of viewership coming over. But it would have to be really big, really consistent, and the league would also have to be entertaining.
The allure to the league would be that Jinxie would be co-streaming it. It wouldn't be that the league is fun to watch suddenly. And then when he's gone, that allure is gone already. So then you're just left with the league. Like, the reason LEC, this might sound kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to be that guy. But I personally think the reason LEC is not in a spot like this is because of content creators and streamers and teams made by content creators. And
I think this could be true to some degree, but when I think about what we know about algorithms of social media and about economics, right? I think it's more likely that it's not that the content creators, we'll just call that C, are propping up the audience. I think it's more likely that content creators in Europe and LEC are popular because Europe has an audience and has a demand for League of Legends content. I don't think it's the other way around. Of course, content creators in Europe who are doing extremely well do help with retention. So they kind of like feed into keeping the audience by making good content, right? So they help with retaining League of Legends viewership. And it is worth noting, by the way, that a lot of the content creators I feel like that have propped up over the last few years are European content creators. Like obviously Cadril, Baus and Los Ratones were big. You have Nemesis, Drewtoot, Alois. A lot of these really big content creators over the last few years have been European. And on top of that, I know I've heard Dom saying, and I think Thorn and Monty, when they were both still doing Summoning Insight, were also saying that a big portion of their audience is also European. So I think based on just what I know and what I've heard, it's more likely that it's just positioned better in Europe, League of Legends as a game, and so it has an audience. I don't think that content creators are causing the audience. I think maybe they're help retaining the audience. I don't think that they're causing the audience to grow. I think there's just natural interest in League of Legends in Europe, which I'm going to get into like why culturally I think that, you know, for certain reasons, League of Legends might be better positioned over there, but I'm going to let Cadril continue for a second.
Like all the co-streaming stuff. If there was no co-streaming and there was no content creator-led teams, it would just be cooked. The only thing that would like bring people back is...
Yeah, I would agree that it would be cooked without those things, but like I said, I don't think they're causing the audience. I think they're just supplying the demand for League of Legends content. Not that people are sitting there saying, I want League of Legends content, but it's just like, obviously social media algorithms are feeding them content that they think people would be interested in. And because there's League of Legends content that's good, that people are being supplied with, they're staying within the league, like, viewership cycle.
I don't know. So like if like that's what I mean, the long-term allure of a co-streamed final from Jinxie will increase the number on your screen that says peak viewership, but it won't impact anything if it's just one series. It needs like a long-term solution, like Jinxie and fucking XQC and whatever start making teams and put in all their effort and shit to like
putting in all their effort is the key word here, right? Because we do have content creators with teams, pretty much only Cadril. Dom was pretty regular about doing his team, but that fell apart for a couple different reasons. But like pretty much only Cadril had actually made a team and stuck with it, streamed it, made a bunch of content out of it, like consistently. Like there's tons of Los Ratones content, and most other content creators that have a team or are associated with a team don't even remotely put out as much content related to their team, which I think is actually really bad because you have this team, right? And like like Disguised Toast has the team, and the fact that I never hear about any of the content that he does for the team really makes it seem like LCS is boring. It's like, he can't monetize this. He can't make views out of it. So, you know, why would I go watch it if even the guy who owns the team isn't going to interact with the product that much?
Increase viewership for the league itself across a longer spectrum, but to be fair, at this point, I think it would hurt their stream more than it would give anything in the long run. Yeah, but Ludwig and Moist Critical are there. No, I get that Ludwig and Moist Critical there, and I get that Disguised Toast is there. Okay. I don't want to be that guy, but I think that they have Ludwig, Moist Critical, and Disguised all have the formula ready. But there's one more step in the formula that makes like fan sentiment higher and gets everyone interested in your story. And it's when you start winning. Like if they were to have, if Disguised made it to an international and like did well in a group stage and Disguised was like on site, that's when the spark hits. You know?
I think it's kind of weird, right? Because I do think he's right that winning would help a lot. It would increase interest in the team, but I don't think that the creators for the team are going to help create content until the interest already exists, right? A winning team for North America would already generate interest, and then they would come in to like make viewership or, you know, consume part of that interest, right? I don't think they're creating interest by being associated with a good team. I think they should be creating interest by being personalities running this team. Not, it's kind of, I'm not phrasing it very well, but I think that we can't just be like, man, you know, maybe if Shopify win, then, you know, everybody will flock to them and then the content teams will be fun, right? But it's like, if Team Liquid Lion or C9 won, you know, big and at an international, or at least got to like semis or something like this, or did really well in quarters or something like FlyQuest did, yeah, they would gain popularity. I mean, it has nothing to do with the content creator being on the team in that case.
I mean,
they will once again be first pick, and bands seem to be following.
I think it's if you let it brew and then they start like, and then they start winning. I think that's like the final piece to a lot of puzzles when it comes to like branding and shit. Because no one's gonna care if you just keep if like if LR. Let's take LR for example. If we went to tier 2 and we just fucking lost every game, and we like finish like 2nd here, 4th here, 8th here. After a year, people would just be like, whatever. What if?
Well, that's true. I mean, I think to a degree, actually, a big part of LR's popularity wasn't just that they had all these names involved with it, right? I mean, obviously you have Kadro, who's like one of the biggest names in the scene right now, who's part of it, and then obviously some of the greatest LEC players we've ever seen, right? Which is a big part of it. So they obviously would have had some level of popularity. But I think it's true that if they hadn't consistently won, then they actually would have had significantly less popularity. I think people thinking that they were good and that, you know, since they were dominating the tier 2, that they could really like make a push for LEC and all these things was like a big part of why people stuck around, because they're really invested in that journey to see like where it could go.
Like made a finals. It's like a lot of people would be like turn their heads, you know.
Eventually,
like Forsen.
Yeah.
Well, Forsen did a content team.
They were doing so much content for Los Ratones, and a lot of those players are so incredibly likable that I don't think that it would have just completely fizzled out even if they weren't winning. I think they would have still had a lot of success in terms of viewership, to be honest.
That is the fate they've been given.
There is an allure to a content team which is hate watching, you know. I think a lot of people were like preying on downfalls maybe.
Yeah.
But like the intentions of those teams in NA are really good. Like Disguise, bro, he fucking rocks up and co-stream his teams all the time, and he's like super giga invested in their winning, their well-being, the growing of the team.
But a combination.
Is he? Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, because I do watch the LCS, right? Like I've watched Disguised games, but I guess I don't watch Disguised Toast co-stream. I feel like I've never seen him have any content almost ever for the team. Just like pretty occasional. At least that's what I see in my YouTube recommended. I guess I don't actually tune into his streams. Maybe I'm wrongly accusing Toast of not making content for the team.
But this top side of the map
Just nothing's clicked yet
very well
in
equipped
terms
to
of like
shut
success.
down Annie, Wukong, and Rumble.
I don't know. I don't even know what the long-term fix is. I don't know. It's just full chop.
I mean, well, if your plan is on winning, right, then it's pretty hard to, like, maybe I'm being a little brutally honest here, but you just look at the players on this guy. You're not really going to end up winning with that team, especially when you look at the other rosters relatively.
Because I even think that if you introduced the younger generation to League, they can't just watch League. They're not going to know what the fuck is happening. They're going to need to play the game for at least a year to understand anything that's happening.
That's exactly what I'm saying. There's a huge amount of quote-unquote downtime in League of Legends Pro esports that you're just not going to understand or have any appreciation for what's happening unless you have so much time into the game that you develop like a certain amount of vision of, you know, what progressing a game looks like, so you can actually understand what's cool about, you know, certain macro that things are doing. So I said this a little bit before in a different video, but the idea behind things like feats of strength and Otacon are actually very good. I thought they're very poor in execution, but they are objectives that incentivize fighting, which not only players like to do in solo queue, irrespective of like whether you think that hurts scaling or not, right? I think even players who play scaling like to fight. I think this is just true. But they incentivize fighting, and it makes more hectic and chaotic games, which, in the specific way that they were doing it, made it a little actually harder to totally understand what was happening. But the idea behind creating more actions in game and actually making League of Legends an offensive favored game rather than a defensive favored one, where for most of the game it's really hard to actually pressure the enemy, especially if they can cross map. So it's really hard to see that things are actually happening in the game if you're not super experienced. Like, you're not like lane swaps so people can pressure and go up CS and take 2 plates or something like this, which are still happening today, just happening at like 9 minutes instead, aren't going to be easy for almost anyone to understand or find entertaining, let alone you know, lesser skilled or newer players.
Happening. It's not like CS when you just turn it on and watch them click heads. So
He even uses the exact same example.
the long-term gain you get probably from the newer generation playing League is probably like a year or two in the down the line.
Afterwards, I think it makes sense. Sponge is.
It's not like a. It's not a. It's a long-term fix.
More success than the Fury, but Sponge definitely has.
What do you think will happen long-term? I don't know. My long-term view of.
I'm going to cut in real quick before he finishes. Some of the things that I think they plan on doing in the near future are for the purpose of getting a little player spike into the game. I don't know if you guys have seen this thing where it talks about like the League Discord beta, like talks about linking the account. I think this is going to be Riot's way of sort of cheating in voice comms into the game without actually having the upfront cost of developing them, or even necessarily be responsible for monitoring or policing the voice chat. They're going to have, my theory at least, that I don't think they've confirmed this, they're going to have you link your Discord and your Riot account, and then, you know, it'll do something like have you automatically join a call or something with your teammates if you have that setting available. So I think this is where League voice comms are going, so that might get people into the game. They're also doing a huge visual update. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. After seeing champions like Zen and Mel come out, I think the biggest difference between these champions and older champs in terms of visual design is their animations. So I think you'll see pretty much at a baseline, most champs get a little bit nicer things like walking animations and such. I think they'll do a few major visual reworks for something like maybe Rumble and point to that and be like, look at how new the game looks, and maybe you'll see some new animations across the map or something like this. This is what I imagine the extent of the visual updates will be that they said are coming. I don't know what the client's going to be like, but I think they're going to push for a new visual look for the game to try and sort of use it as an opportunity to fix their branding.
Of fix is just biased as fuck. But
my theory is that it'll come down with a crackdown, at least in the short term, on toxicity. if you do all these things, like you put in WSD, you add in voice chat, you upgrade the game visually so you can get a spike in new players, I think it's a really good chance to crack down hard on toxicity so that new players coming into the game don't don't get that experience right off the bat. Because I'll break into this into a second. It takes a really small percentage of the player base being toxic in order for you to perceive a highly toxic experience within the game.
It's just League. I think League of Legends viewership in domestic leagues will just go down. It's only ever going to go down. Domestic league viewership will only ever go down. IMO.
It's hard to predict. That's definitely the trend. I feel like that's the obvious answer. I'm not going to say that I necessarily disagree, but I wouldn't say it with so much certainty.
The enemy team as well.
The only way league viewership recovers is if it's just an overall one product. Not one product, one, like, I don't know how to say it.
Solid. I think it's going to be good in team fights. Give a skill in bot lane.
Like, if you can see DNS versus Fnatic,
you're in with a good chance, as long as things don't go too
or even fucking Nongshim versus FlyQuest.
Compared to any other stage of the game, the early game has
every few weeks.
This isn't going to matter to anyone who doesn't know who the teams and players are. Like, that'd be really cool to someone like me who's like, oh yeah, these teams might be comparable in skill level, or at least it'd be a batch of players that you never see play against each other or interacting, who come from like different styles of the game, sort of. But I don't think this would actually draw any interest from people who aren't already watching the scene, to be honest.
And it just becomes like one, you know, like everyone plays in boot camps in their regions and they like come together, you know. But obviously that's a delusional take because franchising exists, right? And you can't just like piss 200 million on the ground and then just burn it and then shit on it and dance around it and then just move on.
I think Overwatch League did something like that.
No, not a unified league. No, not a league. No. I would say like some kind of CS style system with like tier 1 teams, tier 2 teams, but tier 1 being like the G2, BLG, Gen Gs, and the tier 2 being like middle of the pack domestic leagues or whatever. You know, like in football you have like the Champions League. And
I mean, technically you could just look at how the league is right now like that. I mean, we just call the tier 1 leagues tier 1, but I mean, really, what everyone mostly cares about is international performance, at least in the scene, especially now that formats for First Stand and MSI are so good, right? I think at all 3 tournaments, the results actually matter a decent amount. Arguably, MSI might even be a more contentious tournament than Worlds, even. Worlds just has, the big name for it. And even I would get a little more excited for it than I do for MSI, because there's, more teams and stuff. But I'm just saying that, I think you already kind of have this sort of reverence towards internationals. You just don't call the internationals tier 1. You just call the path to getting there tier 1.
And you have like the other league that people go to that they didn't.
It really just seems like a difference of language and an actual difference of how things would work.
Qualify to or some shit.
Because exactly, regional leagues, you could just call them tier 2, sure, right? And that's still how you qualify to internationals.
On the lower end in terms of the difficulty scale, everybody can go in at the same time.
I guess the best way to put it is, I think after 10 years, people are just, to the surprise of absolutely no one, people just don't give a fuck about regular seasons. They just don't give a fuck.
Alright,
domestic regular seasons are only ever going to go down.
I think I like the way LCS does domestic regular seasons right now. I think one round of BO3s is a short and sweet way to do it. I think it's a pretty good way to seed your teams as well. Most teams get into playoffs, so it's mostly for seeding. But I do think it's, a good warm up going into playoffs, right? You get to see all the teams play each other, see who looks strong, who doesn't. Even and it's BO3s too, so the series are fun and lengthy and competitive. I think multiple sets of BO3s or some of the weird group systems that are really hard to follow, like LPL does, aren't very good for viewership. I think it's best when, even if it's not the most competitively viable, when the formats are very simple to follow.
Viewership. There's just no fix.
In a very long time.
There's no mysterious fix.
I mean, it's useful.
You can have.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of things that would need to be done in order to fix League of Legends viewership. I think the biggest thing that I was saying before is that you need to fix League of Legends' position within Western culture, right? So I think a big problem right now that has to do with the dwindling player base of the game is actually a branding issue. But it's a type of branding issue that no matter like marketing is going to fix, because a lot of your negative branding for League of Legends actually comes from word of mouth. It's very just known as a toxic game, right? And pretty much for good reason. So one thing I like to think about, right? You have 10 players in a game, right? Let's say that let's take this. Let's say that,
Like temporary big influence.
Can I get this to work? No? Why not work? Maybe this was why it doesn't work. Okay, let's clear. Okay, so sorry. Let's say whatever you think 10% of the player base is toxic, right? Which I actually think most people would put the number higher than this, right? But whatever, we're just going to call it 10%, give or take on any given day, a few percent to account for, not every toxic player is going to be toxic every game. Not every player who's generally well behaved is going to be well behaved every game. They're going to have toxic games as well. But let's say the average is about 10%. That's an average of one toxic player in there trying to ruin your games on every single game. And that's pretty tough. Even if they're not necessarily on your team, they can ruin your experience. And at the same time, it's very well known at this point that humans just are more likely to catalog negative experiences much faster than they are to catalog positive experiences, right? So if you're having an average of one, maybe because it's not necessarily on your team, every other game a toxic experience, you're going to have a very poor perception of the game, even at a relatively small percentage of toxic players. By that same token, if we go to 5% toxic players, right, you're still on average going to have a toxic player in every other game, which to someone, is going to mean a lot. If half your games are featuring some amount of at least one toxic player, right? Sometimes it's going to be more, sometimes you'll have less, right? It's not like this is some guaranteed value. It's about an average, right? But the average experience you're going to come out feeling is that, yeah, this community is extremely toxic, even if a huge majority of the player base isn't toxic. So it's like, how do you counteract this feeling of toxicity, even if it's coming from an extremely small percentage of the player base? So it's like, you might be thinking, well, you could just like ban everybody, but that's not really an easy solution. First of all, because like I said, this number isn't like, excuse me, like these numbers aren't actually just like specifically this 10% of players every single time are the ones causing problems. It probably is like a good chunk of the same players causing issues, but it's not going to be all of them. The other thing about it too is a lot of them are going to be top players. Like, what do you do if you want to ban 5% of the most toxic players and you're like, all right, let's find out who that is? And it's like, we don't care what the how do I phrase this? It's like you're just going to find by some metric the 5% most toxic players and ban them, right? A lot of them would probably be at really high elo, to be honest. A lot of people really enjoy watching, the really big reactions from sort of quote-unquote toxic streamers. But you might actually unironically banning like the top 500 players of your game if you try to ban 5% of the most toxic players, which cause a lot of issues, to be honest.
To step in.
Useless in late, apart from the exhaust, I guess. It has value against the
But
exhaust.
after novelties wear off, like regular seasons are.
Process is you can cleanse the exhaust.
Whereas like open qualifiers, the tournaments.
But that's kind of the only real
and
value
like
you're getting from it, which I mean, it's still a decent
this
amount.
whole major
We've
minor
seen the
system and stuff like
Barry
this.
and
I think this is
so
always going to be
in terms of early trades in the lane.
where it's at.
I don't think open qualifiers are going to make a difference for most regions, right? Or maybe like half the regions. I mean, because you think about like LCK and LPL, right? Maybe they'll have like a whole score of teams that, can come in from an open qualifier, right? But for the most part, the best players are just on the North American on the North American teams. LAC teams are a little bit weird. I feel like they drop a lot of good talent, but for the most part, I feel like since you don't have that many options to choose from, because if you're a smaller player base, you're already choosing the best players you have available in your whatever 8 to 10 teams in LEC and LCS, an open qualifier. Like I said, this whole idea doesn't even seem like it has much merit to me.
And that won't be available.
I don't even think promotion relegation is going to be that big of a deal. It'll be nice, but
Rumble, it does feel like
Yeah, ultimately these are things that you're just not
eighth
going to
tier.
you're just not going to care about that much if you're not already into the scene, right? My biggest thing is League of Legends needs to have its own player base perceive the game as fun and worth it. Maybe you guys don't have the same experience I do, but I feel like if I were to talk to any of my friends about whether or not they'd recommend the game, they would either say no, they wouldn't, or they would have like a huge caveat along with that, like, yeah, but it's like really toxic, or you should only play it with friends, but you know there are other games you can play with friends. They're not gonna. No one's jumping to get their friends into League of Legends like maybe they used to be. And I think you need to really change the community's own perspective of the game if you want to get other people back into it. And that's the other thing. I think a lot of people that you get into the game will be returning players. The other thing, and like I said, I think you need a combination of all these things. The other big thing, let's choose a better color. Sure, this is fine. The other big thing is gameplay. I think as long as the gameplay, if you can look at League of Legends as sort of like a team fighting game or something like that, then this might be easier for players to look at and digest. But right now, there's just a lot going on that no one's going to be able to understand because the artifacts that made League of Legends what it is from the RTS genre just aren't as common in today's game because that genre largely died out. So I think you need to sort of change League of Legends' game. You can have a lot of the fundamentals be the same, but you really need to switch from this, sort of it needs to stop being optimal to play safe. Is my opinion. You need to go from being a defensive sided game, which I think League of Legends is right now, and it needs to become offensive. So that way you're actually rewarded for success much harder for doing successful aggressive plays. The big thing about that is you'll a lot of people are going to feel pretty bad about that, right? I think the biggest case for why this could be a bad idea is you just look at champions like Assassins, who's like the only way they can exist right now in the game. Assassins is to go and kill you, and people hate that. The Assassins like have to snowball the game in order to play, and they're exceptionally good at killing you, even if you're whatever under your tower or even slightly out of position, and that irritates a lot of people. So you kind of have, in some ways, a catch-22, I guess, where it's like, well, you need to make the game more appealing for the types of players that, need something to latch onto within the game in order to relate to what's happening without having to be very experienced. But when you do that, a lot of the existing players who are very accustomed to playing certain ways within the game would have to very fundamentally change the way that they interact with League of Legends, which I think a lot of people don't want to do. Because I think my biggest thing, and this has to do more with sorry, let me pause for a sec. I know this isn't a very coherent rant, but like I said, it is just a rant because I just feel like kind of popping off for a little bit. Maybe I'll make like a more proper collection of my thoughts later, but at the moment, this is how it is. I think you have this other thing, right? And it doesn't have anything to do with League of Legends specifically, but there's two things that it does have to do with. You mean this? There's two big things that kind of play in the background of why League of Legends struggles to, have a good community. I think one is just actually internet culture. I think especially right now, it's very common to be toxic in it's very socially acceptable to be toxic in a lot of different ways than it used to be as well. Before, toxicity on the internet was, throwing around racial slurs, right? Now, toxicity on the internet is like super advanced mental warfare. It's like people will just like start calling you out on every insecurity that they think you might even have to try to get some reaction out of you. And it's just totally common to do this for literally any reason. Someone's running your game down. It's totally cool to just like try to figure out whatever you can say to, get in the person's head the absolute most. And especially on your teammates. Like, that's the other weird thing, is before, I felt like if you were flaming League of Legends or you're, roasting on the internet, you would be doing it to people who oppose you. Nobody all chats anymore. Like, not in my games. The first thing that comes out of people's mouths when something goes wrong is my team, my team, my team, my team, blaming my team. There's no like trash talk really between the teams. It's all within team trash talk. It's very strange. So I don't really get that. The other thing, what was I gonna say? What was the other thing? It was, oh no, don't lose the plot. There's internet culture. Maybe I'll just come back to it because I don't remember. But generally, yes, I think this is a big thing. Internet culture plays a big part in the socially acceptable levels of toxicity in the game currently. I think this is just true across the internet. I don't think it's a League of Legends specific problem, that the types of toxicity that are allowed in these spaces are different than they were before. And I think maybe this is just kind of my nostalgia talking, but I think they're worse. I feel like they're more personal in nature, and they come from a place of ill intent. The other thing I remembered that I was going to talk about was it's not just a League of Legends problem or an internet culture problem, but I've played a lot of different games that have long term, it looks a little ugly, players or player bases. So, what games am I talking about when I'm talking about long-term player bases, right? The ones that I always think of, right? I'm thinking LoL has this, WoW has this, and recently I've been noticing that Yu-Gi-Oh has this. These are the games that I most am involved with that have really long-standing player bases that share a lot of very common issues. One very common issue is players just hate the company that makes them. It doesn't matter what the company does to improve a situation or to experiment in order to try to improve its situation. If it isn't specifically in the way that the players asked for, then they're really upset. And then even when the players get what they ask for, the companies that make these games get blasted. And now that's not, don't get me wrong, this is not me trying to defend the like Riot or Blizzard or Konami for, a bunch of the stupid stuff that they've done. I think they've handled their games over a long enough period of time extremely poorly, right? But I noticed that when they do something that's good or that's in the right direction, they just get completely blasted by the hardcore players. And the other thing is that the hardcore players are extremely needy. The players who play these games, actually, I noticed this with with D2 as well, Destiny 2. The players who play these games want to play these games like a full-time job. At least the ones that are their most hardcore and their most loudest audience. But so these are the people who are on the forums, they're on the Reddits, they're on Twitter and all these things. The loudest people about the game, right? So, they get all this noise and they get a lot of attention from the companies, but generally what's best for these players is not actually what's best for the health of the game. Generally, what would be best is if you were constantly bringing in new players, and then sure, after enough years, your oldest players, tend to quit, but you're constantly filtering in newer and young players, right? That would generally be the healthiest thing for the game as a whole. But that's not what happens. A lot of these games with long-standing communities tend to cater really hard to their long-standing communities because, it's much easier to do that and, try to give in to what they're asking for in order to keep retention. It's much easier to do that than it is to try to generate more audience, to be perfectly fair. But so that's why I think maybe I mentioned it before. So that's why I think part of what needs to happen for these games in order to actually succeed is something that probably won't happen, and it's that the communities need to take some amount of self-accountability. Individuals need to look at what's happening, especially, these really long-term players, right? They need to look at what's happening and they need to be like, well, this isn't conducive to me playing 8 hours of this game a day, but the content's better than it was before. This was a big thing in Destiny 2, right? When they started introducing seasonal content. Like the first 3 seasons or so were pretty good, but when you start having to create grindier and grindier content so that player can keep playing the game all year long, then it suffers when it's time for an expansion. An expansion comes out in WoW, or it comes out in Destiny 2, and they just have less and less and less in them. Part of it's because of sales, part of it's because you're sending resources into cheap content that people can grind at. I think it's a big part of it, personally. The other thing that these player bases need to realize, people are gonna hate me for this, but I just think it's true. I think really the biggest problem with a lot of these games is the player bases. So another thing about these loud player bases, right? That they don't realize is that even the ones that don't put that many hours into the game, or that are just on a stream or watching a YouTube video, are already in the highest tier of players, pretty much, or maybe mid tier. There's something if you start watching side content for a game, that pretty much automatically puts you in something there's a graphic for it that I had. I wish I'd find it, but for most games it puts you in the 70th percentile of mid-core hardcore players, which is just insane. So a lot of them don't realize how much of a minority they are. The other thing about them too is they think that their opinions are much more reliable than they are. Generally, when we're talking about feedback for games, the best thing that you can take away as a dev is that there is a problem and where the pain points are, but generally player solutions to problems are not very good. That doesn't mean the communities are always wrong, but they're not very smart about how to fix issues. A lot of times you got to think about the balance of things and what causes and effects are going to have in the long term in terms of player retention, and they don't have a lot of the same data that these companies have. So a big point of contention was when Freak was talking about removing the ability to ping your teammates R, right? And he would talk about, just type Karthus R because XYZ, whatever his reasoning was. And then later on, he said that the surveys came back and said that things that actually improved. So surveys are a big one because there was a lot of pushback about how valuable the surveys were versus how valuable the specific feedback that they were getting on social media is. And I'm just going to say it right now, the valuable data that Riot gets from the surveys that they take is infinitely more valuable than Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, every piece of feedback they get from every other platform combined. And I'll explain why. Okay, so big thing, right? First of all, it's not like Riot can go around and look at every single piece of feedback that they get from all these forums, right? So survey data is much easier to acquire. Plus, you have to think about the fact that Riot's English-speaking company, so they're not going to go to the Korean forums and the Chinese forums and every European language forum and Reddit and then be like, all right, and start reading and collecting all the data from there. But you also have this other thing called survey bias. Now, I keep drawing my Y backward. What the frick? Okay, so survey bias. What is survey bias, right? So survey bias is a phenomenon that happens when you collect surveys that's documented that essentially when you ask people to take a survey, you find that your data is skewed towards certain extremes because people who feel most strongly on a topic are more likely to answer in the first place. So your first instinct, right, is going to be, okay, well, if their first instinct, if this is true, if surveys come with this bias, right, then surely that the data that you're getting from Reddit and from Twitter, right, is actually less biased because, you know, right, it's not because you have the survey bias from the surveys that Riot are taking. But you wouldn't have that, right, with Reddit and Twitter? No. Because you forget that Reddit on Twitter is volunteered, right? Nobody even asked. It's literally a who asked situation if you're tweeting or redditing. So your data is naturally more prone to this type of survey bias than actually the surveys that Riot's taking. The other thing too is that Riot can curate and analyze this data a lot easier. It's probably not only okay, so this data that they get from the surveys is going to be more easily curated than anything you find on social media. It's going to be more numerous because not only because it's easily curated, but because you can pull the entire player base. You can just translate surveys to Korean using whatever, a computer or an AI or whatever, and then just have it translated back and folded in with the rest of your data and broken down by region, by server, by player base, by rank, and all these different things. So it's going to be more curated, more enumerated. It's going to be easier to parse. And it's going to be less biased than anything that you collect from social media. And so Riot has this tool available to them for this data that's better for all these different reasons, right? Than people on Reddit giving their opinions. And then yet it would be impossible, even after anyone hearing this explanation, for them to admit that their input. Oh my lord! That their input. How do I do this? Is invalid, or at least it'd be hard for them to. People can't take that. You know, their opinion doesn't really matter, right? And it's not like they don't matter at all. I mean, you do want to listen. It is good to know what your hardcore audience is thinking. That's a part of it. You want to keep those players if you can. But it's not the same. They think that these people that think the most about the game, you play pro players and everyone included, are the ones that have the best opinions about what Riot should do, and that they're the most informed, and that their ideas should be listened to very closely. And it's just generally not true. And that's just the fact. It's like, you know, you can take whatever your favorite content creator is about what they think they should do about the game. I don't care. It's like if you love Dom or Casual or Azap or whatever, whoever, you know, it's like they're just probably wrong. They're like one person with no game design experience. But Riot is getting information from this source that is just infinitely more valuable. It's like they can get a way better read on what problems people have with things than any of the individuals in the community. And they can, like I said, curate it and parse it way easier than anything that they'll find on Reddit, unless it like hits like the really like the top of the Reddit page. It's like then they can see and then they can understand. But I mean, you see Reddit opinions make it to the top of the page all the time, and everybody just knows that it's stupid, right? Like the Riven animation canceling one. Everybody knew this was silly, but it still went up there on Reddit just because I don't even know why, because it's silly. Oh, I ranted for so long. I lost my voice, and it wasn't like the cleanest rant. But I just wanted to pop off. Oh, time for some games. Oh, my voice is so raspy and sore. We'll play a bit on stream, but I'm not going to talk as much, I don't think. I should play for at least a little bit. You can focus on improving or something.
It is done.
Nice. Okay, playing the auction. What am I playing at the auction? Is there even a good answer?
It's not how much time you have. It's how you use it.
Oh, I think this is brand bot. My stream health is fluctuating. I didn't get his link in time. Whoops. I was gonna trade the open stream. Ugh, my voice is so raspy. Really hoping I win with just an E trade. If I don't, it's cooked. I think I should operate pretty well with Viego in this comp here. Ugh, I just need more water. That rant was killer. And my audio, so alright, maybe it's just a one game stream after that.
Time to start some trouble.
Raspy voice, raspy voice.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
I hate being responsible.
Minions have spawned.
Look out! Look at it! Never see this coming.
Only has one pot.
not quitting till it's right.
I have no Q. I just have to lose the minions, I think.
I'll help you this time. Duck.
It's one extra pot, so it's kind of fine.
Zon is the future.
Lag too.
We make the future. Back to going forward. Welcome to Zon!
Oh, we get the solo kill. So everything kind of works out.
Look out! I do my own stunts.
An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain.
We got a blasting wand off that. It's pretty big. He's looking for our base. He's not gonna find it.
Has been slain.
Oh, he's just queuing the next wave. I think he's dropping XP here. It's really good. Audio issue again? I wonder why. Maybe he's just getting confused because my voice is raspy, or am I actually just dropping audio? Not dropping frames.
There are always consequences.
Heads up! An ally has been slain.
I should have been paying more attention.
Progress doesn't belong to one city. Never look back.
Got a decent trade back. It's okay. Actually, might be fine.
Your casts have a way of catching up. Get right up.
Keep it simple.
Keep pushing.
People aren't generally very good at figuring out what to do about laners who can trade this aggressively. It's going shorter than I thought it was. I need to stop. I don't think so.
I wish I stayed here.
An ally has been slain.
This should win all-ins pretty hard bottom.
If
Oh,
there
my
are
voice is starting to
limits,
come back.
I haven't found them yet.
Or maybe not.
Don't blink. Every second matters. do it the hard way. Find them! Watch out! Never had luck.
This guy just doesn't even know. GPQ yourself. Jesus Christ, that's a new one, I guess. Oh, lost damage. I didn't think my wave clear was so delicate.
Things aren't gonna improve themselves.
Okay, well, is what it is. It kind of sucks I dropped the wave to go to that play, but he just kind of went a little too early. It's fine though. We're enough ahead that I don't have to worry about it.
I'd rather make mistakes.
It's
than
not a
do
big
nothing.
deal. Happens.
Think back.
An ally has been slain.
They lost before he got there.
What's that? Come get me. This is how to say
Oh.
hello in Zon.
Everyone's coming to me as well.
Go.
Good enough, I guess. I'm pretty okay with this, to be honest. I don't actually care that much. I just hope Kennen doesn't die. I'm fine with killing Kane in the jungle. For getting the bot side. Auctions on that. No winning this. My wave's
An
good.
enemy has been slain.
So I don't know why he says we win, because they just don't win in the play at all. Grubs are super useless, and bot might even get dove.
I could make this hurt.
Hopefully they don't end up trading the brand. I should save my Q. Yeah, okay, it's fine.
Tomorrow's the last of mine.
I think it wants to go there, but aren't they just gonna be like done with it soon?
Let's make them notice.
Pretty good start. Oh wow. Yeah, we're just way too strong. They can never ever do anything
I
there.
owe them nothing.
Oh my.
Look out! Every rule needs a break.
The Echo buff is really nice. It did a whole second off his passive, which is really, really huge in lane. Maybe not that huge in lane, to be honest, actually. The cooldown might just effectively be the same. But it means you can do multiple things in a fight. I just have to go.
Come on! Show me something new!
An enemy has been slain. Shut down.
That was gonna be a better stun, but it wasn't. I just died for no reason. Where's my Twitch? There he is. I never got a dark seal. Guy's getting a lot of plates mid.
It worked in another timeline.
An ally
He's
has been
still hitting.
slain.
Is he dead? Maybe he was flash. That's fine.
I hate being responsible.
Yeah, he's not even in here. Probably would just get my tower too. Oh.
Sean is the future.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
One more time. We make the future.
Okay, I'll take that. This is comeuppance. We got this flash, this R, Bard heal. And we got the tower still. We already lost a shutdown and Bard got the kill. Can Twitch make it out? Nice. She's super
Has
dead.
been slain.
I don't actually have much to
Time is
do
not on your
in
side.
this mid lane right now.
An ally has been slain.
Come get her. Time snap. Back to going forward. Think back. I finished what I started.
Don't want to go too hard. Akshan can come back soon. Pantheon's coming.
I do my own stunts.
An enemy has been slain.
There are always consequences. Last chance.
Not CSing very well.
Heads up.
Diego doesn't want to do it. I don't want to do
Has
it.
destroyed a turret.
Never look back. Make me defeat myself.
Yeah, man.
Back before anyone notices. Look out! My pasts have a way of.
Ally has been slain.
Look out! Taking a breather.
I only have mana for like 1 Q. I can't even play here. What's Drake is spawning? It's like, it's so silly. It's like, why would we go take the Herald, which is already a pretty bad objective, into Bard, who can just ult it, when we can just take the enemy camps? It's obvious which one's more valuable.
Slain an enemy.
Ah, yeah, chain CC'd. But I could get the E out. If maybe if I E this side, I get my R off.
Enemy triple kill. Your team has destroyed a turret.
I don't want to be on pace for damage. The Hubris build seems weird. I'd be more confident in the scaling otherwise.
Yep, that went exactly how I didn't want it to go. Never had luck. Never needed it.
Your turret has been destroyed. Has been slain.
It's pretty good.
An ally has been slain.
Look out! Heads up! Things aren't gonna improve themselves. Time doesn't
Yeah,
heal all.
just go. Oh, okay, no, just go. A little scary. Oh, Ignite's probably can't get untapped.
Rather make mistakes than do nothing at all. Patience? What's that?
An ally has been slain.
Tomorrow's the last of my worries.
Enemy rampage.
Let's make them notice.
Need to be at more plays.
An enemy is unstoppable.
Every rule needs a list.
Shut
Don't
down.
blink. Look out! Fool me once, now just rewind. Doubt me.
An ally has been slain. Enemy double kill.
Oh, wow, Iron.
Enemy triple kill.
So hard to play. I should have played the cannon ult more aggressively, to be honest. It would have been good for him, I
Let's not
think.
do that again. Think back. Never see this coming. Heads up.
Enemy killing spree.
He's dead.
Has been slain.
He's dead and nothing's even happened yet.
Not quit until it's right.
Your turret has been destroyed. Enemy rampage. An enemy has been slain.
Dawn is the future.
I should have just ran faster.
Don't blink.
I think my trolling might be bad for the team.
Duck. Cat. Welcome to Zon. to going forward.
I'm gonna play top so I can be opposite side of objective or same side as objective. I'm making a bot play. I don't think this is good.
I finish what I start.
An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
I do my own stunts. Look out! Think back! There are always consequences. Go! Look out! Progress doesn't belong to one side. All out of warning. Never look back.
Rampage. Enemy triple kill. Ace. Your turret has been destroyed. Your turret has been destroyed. Your inhibitor has been destroyed. Your turret has been destroyed. Your inhibitor has been destroyed.
Keep pushing me.
An enemy dominating.
There are limits. Haven't found them yet. We'll do it the hard way.
An enemy is legendary. Shut down. Your turret has been destroyed.
I don't know what this guy's on about. He actually doesn't even know what he's talking about. Neither of them. They're just filthy and thirst.
Second first time for everyone.
Your turret has been destroyed. A summoner has disconnected. Shut down.
Yeah, okay. That's enough. Well, yeah, it's depressing. Have a good day, guys. I'm out.